The hour of 7 p.m. having arrived, I will call to order this regular meeting of the Keene City Council. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and Spectrum Channel 1302. The video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. If you'd like to receive an electronic City Council packet to reference while viewing future broadcasts, please contact the City Clerk's office during business hours, or go to the city's website and subscribe to the city's meetings email list. The agenda is also accessible from any mobile device. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Kate M. Bosley. Here. Laura E. Tobin.
Here.
Michael J. Remy.
Here.
Randy L. Filio.
Here.
Robert C. Williams.
Here.
Edward J. Haas.
Here.
Philip M. Jones. Andrew M. Madison.
Here.
Chris E. Roberts.
Here.
Raleigh C. Ormerod.
Here.
Brian J. Lake.
Here.
Catherine I. Workman. Tina A. Chadbourne. Thomas F. Powers.
Here.
Mitchell H. Greenwald.
Here.
And would you like to call Councilor Chadbourne?
We will call her present. Thank you. That's okay.
And Councilor Jones is caught in Concord with legislative session. He'll get here when he does. Councilor Haas, would you please lead us in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to recognize Councilor Greenwald for a motion on the minutes from our preceding meeting.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to accept the minutes of the March 7, 2024 meeting as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Greenwald and seconded by Councilor Bosley. Councilor Tobin?
Thank you, Chair. One quick note. The communication from Mr. SPF's, I believe that said it was in the communication, I think, was opposed to the downtown gaming facilities, and this says that he is opposed to the ordinance which would restrict the gaming facilities. Is that?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I do believe his letter was in support of the ordinance because he was opposed to downtown gaming facilities, so I think that's a good correction.
We'll make that correction.
Thank you. The movers and the second, no objection to that? Thank you. Seeing no other comments on the minutes, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. We have a unanimous vote. Okay. Move to announcements. This evening we have two birthdays to celebrate in March, Councilor Filio and Councilor Chadbourne. Happy birthday, folks. Continuing with announcements, the legislative delegation meeting will be on March 26th at 6:30 in Heberton Hall, and councilors should RSVP to the mayor's office regarding attendance. Please RSVP to Helen Matson, who's doing a bang-up job, and we're getting good responses, so it's a good opportunity to network with your colleagues in other towns and the legislators as well who are serving us. A reminder that to accommodate additional municipal services and facilities and infrastructure committee meetings that will focus on the downtown infrastructure project, special municipal service facilities and infrastructure meeting dates have been scheduled for April 10th and May 8th. Those meetings will start at 5:30 p.m. and the PLD Planning Licenses and Development Committee meeting will shift to a 7 p.m. start on those two dates, April 10th and May 8th. Also want to put in a announcement for April 3rd and May 1st. Those are the two dates that are the consultants to the downtown project will be holding forums at the Recreation Center. One begins and goes from 3 to 4:30, the other from 5 till 7, I believe. And the public is invited to view the plans as they are being developed and offer their comments so that they can be taken up by the MSFI committee in the subsequent weeks. So please take advantage of those April 3rd and May 1st dates to talk with our consultants from Stantec about the state of the development of those plans. There will be a city council workshop to discuss the downtown project on June 11th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. And an additional reminder that the council summer vacation is scheduled to start with the cancellation of the council meeting of August 15th and will include September 5th, also canceled. The council standing committee meetings of August 7th and 8th and August 21 and 22 are also canceled, and those committees will start up again meeting on September 11th and 12th, with the council then meeting the week after on September 19th. Two other announcements. I was asked by the representative from the state of New Hampshire that they will be hosting a hate crime seminar on April 19th from 8:30 to 11 p.m. Those will be hosted by John Formella, the Attorney General, assisted by Assistant Attorney General Sean Locke, and that location will be announced at our next meeting. But if you want to get that on your calendar, April 19th is the date, I believe. Chief, and I think they're working with you in establishing that date and site. And finally, for the benefit of the public, I just, while we're doing announcements, want to mention that later this evening, we will be considering setting a public hearing on a cottage court overlay district that would be held, if we follow through with this, at our April 18th meeting. So you might want to make note of that if you're interested in providing some testimony at that public hearing. Okay, we'll move on to hearings and presentations at this point. So I want to say a few words about a former city councilor, Nat Stout, who passed away on March 15th. And for those of us who knew Nat, this is sad to report. We want to express our sympathies to his wife, Sharon, and his children, Meg and Titus, and their families. Nat was a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, having served 4 years in electronics and communications, and was honorably discharged as a sergeant. He was a victim of cancer believed to have been caused by water contamination at the Marine Corps base Cap Lejeune, and he'd been stationed there for 20 non-consecutive months during his 4 years of service. Nat was of great service to the city. He was elected as a Ward 3 councilor and served from 2002 to 2009, and served as an at-large councilor in 2010 and 2011, so he served a total of 10 years. He served as a regular member on the Zoning Board of Appeals from 2012 to 2018, on the Library Board of Trustees from 2012 to 2019, and on the Planning Board from 2015 to 2018. I'd like to ask us all to rise for a moment and offer a moment of silence in memory of Nat. Thank you. I want to also ask our chief to come up, and I'll continue on for a moment here. Chief Stewart, I want to express my gratitude to the Keene Police Department for their recent public safety actions. The mission of the Keene Police Department is to protect life and property and to maintain order while assuring fair and respectful treatment of everyone. Over the last month, we have heard and read about some very important police actions that were needed to be taken relative to criminal acts that that involve people in our city. And I really appreciate the work that you do on a day-in, day-out basis, but evidence of that really became apparent over the last month. So let me just begin by offering you our thanks and a round of applause. In attendance from the police department tonight are Chief Steve Stewart, and maybe folks might just stand and be recognized if I call your name. Captain Steve Tenney, along with Sergeant Mark Cotton, Officer Joel Velez, Officer Nick Pinnell, and also involved in the Amber Alert arrest of the Berlin murder suspect, and also involved in that Amber Alert arrest were, but unable to be present with us tonight, were Officer Kyle Macy and Dispatcher Maura Hart. Thank you very much for that timely execution of your duties. Very much appreciated, not just in Keene, but throughout our state. Thank you so much. Yeah. Maybe right now. In addition, I'd like to congratulate and thank several other officers for their work relative to narcotics investigations. Detective Lieutenant Joel Chidester, Detective Jen Truman, Detective Don Lundin, and Detective Andrew Lippincott. They were invited to attend this evening but could not be here. And then I also want to thank the department for their cooperation with the United States District Attorney's Office on the recent arrest of related charges for child pornography. Thank you for your service. Would all the officers come forward? We'll get some recognition and maybe a photo. And Chief, if you could offer some a word or two for us, that would be great too. Thank you.
Where would you like to position us, Mr. Mayor?
Right up in the front of the mayor would be great.
Sure.
Chief, if you want to speak, I think we should take this. Yeah.
Everyone will be able to recognize me. I'm the short guy.
I was giving them their due recognition.
I tried to get him up there. We shamed him into it.
We got him in?
Hold on. We got him. Good.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Councilors, for the recognition tonight of the good work that our police officers do. Going backwards to talk about these drug investigations that our Detective Bureau culminates on a regular basis. They're time-consuming. They take a lot of attention to detail, a lot of time, but they're important work when we talk about making arrests on people with out-of-state gang connections. These are violent people that are here distributing narcotics in the city, and I'm thankful for them for that. With regard to the men standing in front of you, what they did was, what they're trained to do, but still not an easy thing to do. And it started with two citizens who paid attention to the news and recognized the vehicle, and then they called the Keene Police Department, and our dispatcher, Maura Hart, handled it perfectly. And they knew what they were going to. The general public didn't know, but they knew that this was a murder suspect who was armed, traveling with two small children. And they got there, and they executed it perfectly, and everything ended safely. So we're very proud of them for that. And these are just, examples of the kind of professionalism that we have in the department and the kind of good work that they do on a daily basis. So, having said that, I would be remiss if I didn't say that there's one person in this room that is, as far as I'm concerned, most responsible for where we are today as a department, and that would be retired chief and current city councilor, Tom Powers. Councilor Powers, took over the department from the mid-'80s to the early 2000s, and as far as I can tell and from what I've seen, really set a standard for professionalism within the department that persists till today. So, thank you, Councilor Powers.
Thank you.
See if I can put this thing back in. Is there an engineer's left?
I should have asked for that mic.
Do you want me to go grab it for you?
Sure, we'll need it, yeah. So, next I thank you all for your attendance tonight, really appreciate it. Next I want to recognize two people in Keene who were recognized recently by the Manchester Union Leader in their annual 40 Under 40 honorees. They are Alexa Plewa and Cody Morrison. And if you'll come forward, please. As they do, I'm going to introduce them or reintroduce them to you because they aren't, they are known to you probably. Alexa Plewa is the executive director of the Cheshire Children's Museum located at the center at Colony Mill on Emerald Street in Keene. Alexa has been actively involved in supporting family childcare for years. With a rich background spanning 16 years, she has contributed significantly to the well-being of children and families in various roles as an educator, childcare provider, program director, and as a mom. Additionally, Alexa is a driving force behind the Bringing It Home project. This initiative aims to bolster childcare options in the Monadnock region by funding the creation and growth of 10 new home-based childcare businesses by the year 2025, which is right around the corner. Her dedication to supporting families and children is commendable, and her work positively impacts our community. And I'm going to do a commercial for her. The Children's Museum is hosting its 5th annual Shamrock 5K and Family Day on March 29th. March 24th, this Saturday. Sunday. Grabbed it off the website. From 9:30 until 1 p.m. The public is invited. This is their biggest fundraiser of the year, so please come out and support the Children's Museum. And Cody Morrison, who is the executive director or president, which is the right one? Executive Director for the Monadnock Economic Development Corporation, has consistently been a leader throughout his career, first in Newport, New Hampshire, and currently with MEDC. He has innovated to address community and economic development challenges in both locations. Notable accomplishments include securing over $8 million in funding for infrastructure and economic revitalization projects, coordinating production of New Hampshire's first distillery to make hand sanitizer during the COVID-19 pandemic, and launching with Alexa the Bringing It Home project, a first-of-its-kind program that expands access to childcare in southwestern New Hampshire by creating family-based providers. Cody is a graduate of Franklin Pierce University, and he's pursuing a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. He volunteers as president of the New Hampshire Alliance of the Regional Development Corporations and for other boards and committees, including several for the city. So, folks, before we give you the floor, well, let us give you the floor first, and please offer you opportunity to address some of your activities in the city.
Wonderful. Good evening, folks. Thank you for having us. As Mayor Jay Kahn introduced me. I'm Alexa Plever. So I wear a few different hats in this community. I am the executive director of the Children's Museum and working with family-based providers to build and establish staffed family child care networks. So my role in the community is to support families and children in as many different capacities as possible, in turn support the economic workforce in this community. Everyone knows that we are in this child care shortage. There are currently 83,000 shortage placements for children. And the work that I'm doing comes from a place of experience. I was a family-based provider for many years and understand some of the challenges. So what we're working to do is to recruit and retain family child care providers, but also give them technical and business assistance and quality supports, so help with licensing, professional development, connections to the community. So I'm privileged to be here, and the work that we're doing started as the Bring It Home project with 6 providers, and I'm proud to say it's expanded to be the first in the state staffed family child care network, and it's the Monadnock Family Child Care Network.
I will do my best to follow that up. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for letting me join you all this evening. Alexa and I are both very excited and privileged to earn the 40 Under 40 award from the New Hampshire Union Leader. As a relatively newer resident to the Keene community, I've been here for about 2 years now. I live over in Ward 2. I've been welcomed to the community with open arms. It's been a wonderful experience coming here and meeting the people, the businesses, and the organizations that make up this community. So I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you both. And on behalf of the city, I want to present you with this memento of our recognition, and it's a pin that is the key to the city.
It's not the actual key to the city.
If you find a lock it works on, by all means. Yes, the lock that's not on my office. You're welcome to try it there. All right, we will move on to nominations to fill city appointments. Would the clerk please read those nominations?
I'd be happy to. This evening, we have the confirmation of David Morrill to serve as an alternate on the Human Rights Committee, and his term will expire December 31, 2026.
Councilor Greenwald for a motion.
Your Honor, I move to confirm the nomination.
Second?
Moved by Councilor Greenwald and seconded by Councilor Bosley. Any comments on the nomination of Mr. Morrill? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormeron?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Moving on to item B2, we have nominations that are before you to the Library Board of Trustees and the Energy and Climate Committee.
Yes, we have the nominations of Holly Seiler to serve on the Library Board of Trustees with a term to expire June 30th, 2025. And we have Gordon Leversey, who will be serving on the Energy and Climate Committee for a term to expire December 31, 2026.
And we will table these nominations until our next regularly scheduled meeting on April 4th. Moving on to communications, item C1, would the clerk please read?
Yes, we have a communication from Jeff Murphy. Jeff is the owner of Brewbaker's Cafe. They're requesting permission for outdoor dining on the Wilson Street side of their business located at 48 Emerald Street.
And get used to this, we will be referring this to planning, licenses, and development. Item 2.
Yes, we have a communication from Adam Tepfer, president of Keene Pride, and they are requesting their annual license to conduct the Keene Pride Festival on September 25th, 2024.
And like all licenses, we will be referring this to Planning Licenses and Development Committee. Item C3.
This is a communication from Sarah Green of Pathways for Keene, and they are requesting their annual license to conduct the 4 on the 4th road race on July 4th, 2024.
And we will refer this to Planning Licenses and Development Committee. Item C4.
A communication from Counselor Madison suggesting a review of the city council policy, disciplinary policy, provide a better process for issues related to conduct towards a city employee.
And as a rule of order kind of question, and also relative to city employment rules, we'll refer this to Planning Licenses and Development to see what further action might result from this letter. And item C5.
And this is a communication from Bruce Bickford of the Farmers Market of Keene, and they're requesting a license to operate the market on Saturdays from April 20th through October 31st in their typical location on Gilboa Ave.
And we'll refer that also to Planning Licenses and Development. So pack your calendar, there's going to be lots of things on weekends and at PLD meetings. Moving on to Part D of our committee's reports. Would the clerk please read the first motion?
Sure. This is a Planning Licenses and Development Committee report. It's related to a communication that came in from a Jared Goodell, and it was regarding issues associated with sidewalk cafe licenses. And on a vote of 5-0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends referring issues associated with sidewalk cafe licenses to city staff.
Counselor Bosley for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Ormerod. Moved by Counselor Bosley, seconded by Counselor Ormerod. Comments?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Thank you so much. Okay, so sounds like it's going to be a theme that you guys are going to get a lot of PLD over the next couple months. But from this item, we heard several points that were brought to our committee by Mr. Goodell. And at the same time, we actually heard from the clerk's office because they had intended to bring an ordinance revision to us in regards to enforcement mechanisms prior to this letter coming in. So there was some good timing associated with it. There has been a change in responsibilities with the leaving of the Public Works Director and how these cafe ordinances are going to get overseen, and that is all going to fall back into the clerk's lap. So it looks like they're going to need a little bit more teeth inside the ordinances to be able to go back and make sure that people are maintaining their proper setups for their outdoor cafes. We also discussed that there are going to be several changes coming to the sidewalk scape of downtown, as well as some financial implications to downtown businesses, again, with this project that we're going to be working on, which will span several years. And we didn't feel like this summer was really the time to put any major sweeping changes to the ordinance that we currently have in front of us, or that we're operating under, but we did ask staff to come back with a second revision once we have that sidewalk design organized, the MSFI is working on right now, that we can revisit what these cafes need to look like in the future, and we can take some of Mr. Goodell's suggestions into consideration at that point. So we are planning on seeing at least 2 revisions coming from staff.
Thank you. Any further comment? Counselor Ormerod.
Thank you. There really is a lot wrapped up in what we can do for the sidewalk widths and how we design Main Street downtown and in adjacent streets. The sidewalk cafes have been really important the last 2 or 3 years. It was instructive to see Mr. Goodell's letter because I became aware of all the things that sidewalk cafes, some of the obstacles there are. So let's be assured, yes, we can regulate them, but we really got some good ideas of how we want to protect them and encourage the sidewalk cafes in our new downtown, because it's really part of the look and feel and culture of downtown. We're not just looking at raking in money from fees. We really want that to be integral part. So that was a great part of the discussion.
We've come a long way in a short time. Further comments? Seeing none, the motion is to carry out the intent of the committee report. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item D2.
We have an informational report from the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee. This is relative to consideration for an ordinance amendment that would require muzzling of a vicious dog that has a record of offenses.
On recommendation from the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee, we will file this as informational and will be followed up upon by staff. Thank you. Moving on to item D3.
We have a Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee report relative to the Keene Swamp Bats request for permission to discharge fireworks on 3 separate dates. Wanted to mention that I heard from the applicant after the PLD meeting, and he wanted to let us know that the 3rd date that they requested in their letter was incorrect. It was really supposed to be July 26th, not July 30th. He realized the mistake after the fact and let us know, and we accepted it as a Scrivener error. So I wanted to make that, make you aware of that, and that we did update it in the motion that's in front of you tonight. And that motion is, on a vote of 5-0, the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee recommends that the Keene Swamp Bats be granted permission for the discharge of display fireworks on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, on Alumni Field at no later than 10 p.m., and reserving a rain date to be determined in conjunction with city staff in the event of inclement weather. Said permission is subject to the following conditions: the signing of a revocable license and indemnification agreement, that the Keene Swamp Bats provide a certificate of liability insurance with the city of Keene listed as additional insured in the amount of $1 million, that the fireworks vendor also provide a certificate of insurance with the city of Keene listed as additional insured in the amount of $1 million, submittal of a signed letter of permission from SAU 29 for use of their property, obtainment of a state fireworks permit. In addition, the petitioner agrees to comply with any recommendations of city staff. The petitioner agrees to absorb the cost of any services over and above the amount of city funding allocated in the FY25 community events budget, and said permission shall be made, or said payment shall be made within 30 days of the date of invoicing. And further, on a vote of 4-1, the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee recommends that the Keene Swamp Bats be granted permission for the discharge of display fireworks on the following dates: Wednesday, June 25th, 2024, and Tuesday, July 26th, 2024, on Alumni Field at no later than 10 p.m., subject to the following conditions: the signing of a revocable license and indemnification agreement, that the Keene Swamp Bats provide a certificate of liability insurance with the city of Keene listed as additional insured in the amount of $1 million, that the fireworks vendor also provide a certificate of liability insurance with the city listed as additional insured in the amount of $1 million, submittal of a signed letter of permission from SAU 29 for use of their property, the obtainment of a Class B fireworks permit for each display date. In addition, the petitioner agrees to comply with any recommendations of city staff, and this permission is conditional upon the petitioner absorbing the charges for any city services provided, with said payment made within 30 days of the date of invoicing.
Thank you. Councilor Bosley for a motion specific to the July 3rd request.
Yes, I move to carry out the intent of paragraph 1 of the committee report.
And seconded, motion made by Councilor Bosley, seconded by Councilor Filio. Comments?
Yes, so the way that we did take 2 separate votes on these dates, and we did have a different vote makeup for each of these votes. So I just want to address them individually. The first one for July 3rd is the annual request from the Keene Swamp Bats to hold their Independence Eve celebratory fireworks We've not had any issues with this event in the past, other than poor weather, where they've had to come before us to maybe change a date. So we did account for rain date possibility in our motion this year. And I believe that they've been holding this event for approximately 20 years, and the committee did unanimously support this.
Any comments on the July 3rd motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Counselor Bosley, would you like to address, I think you already, well, please address if you have any comments on the motion for June 5th and July 26th.
So the motion would be to move to carry out the intent of paragraph 2 to the committee report, of the committee report.
Moved by Counselor Bosley to carry out the intent, seconded by Counselor Filio.
So-
Counselor Bosley?
Thank you, Your Honor. These are 2 additional dates that the Swamp Bats have not generally asked us for. They have had really great success with this event in the past, and they were talking with their sponsors, and they were trying to come up with a way of getting a kickoff, like they wanted to get their season kicked off with a boom, was the way they described it. And so they added the date of their opening game, and I think one toward the end of their season. So in general, the majority of our committee was in support of this, but we were 4-1 on this one.
Comments from the committee? Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Both Counselor Jones and I got an email today from an abutter to the field. It raises a concern that this is too much, and recognizes the fact that baseball is a big part of the city of Keene, and it's changed dramatically over the last 20, 25 years. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, it's changed dramatically in that we have less and less baseball. There used to be Gubby, there used to be Legion. That place was always stacked with baseball, but we still do have a baseball team going. At any rate, he asked that the council consider not having fireworks at all of these events. So I'm bringing that message across, and I'm sure if Phil was here, he'd report the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Williams.
I was the one vote in the 4-1 vote. I think people on the council here know me as the fireworks Grinch. So I won't belabor the point. You know, fireworks are loud, they disturb a lot of people, they wake up dogs. They're pretty damaging to nature, they scare away all the birds, and this is a location, you know, right next to a swamp. But my feeling is, I'm okay with one fireworks celebration per organization per year, but I draw the line at multiple ones, which is what this is.
Counselor Filio and Counselor Ormer.
Yeah, I'm going to stand in favor of this. I understand that there's always going to be, you know, some neighbors that are opposed. That's just the way it is. But as Counselor Bosley spoke at the committee meeting, at least when we do these, they're noticed ahead of time so people can show up here to speak in favor or against. And the neighbors know coming down the road they're not going to be surprised. There's going to be a fireworks display. The problems are the ones that are illegal fireworks displays in Keene, which there's a lot of them, but at least when they come to the city council, the neighbors are aware they're going to have them.
Thank you. Counselor Ormerod.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Part of the discussion last year when this came to PLD was brought up, and I think Councilor Williams had expressed this and wrote letters, when we had 1 or 2 displays. And so he has a point where we're getting to 4 and possibly 5 displays. It's going the other direction. More fireworks instead of less fireworks. Councilor Williams also mentioned the fact that, hey, can they maybe start looking at maybe some drone displays or things like that? So I want those things to be in the record so we can start looking at those things. And it's a little bit ironic that they're called the swamp bats when all that noise is not that good for the actual bats in the swamp. So let's see what we can do to consider moving away from that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to be clear, this would add a second and third date. Any further comments from councilors? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand? So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8. And all those opposed? 5. Motion carries 8-5. Moving on to item D4.
This is an informational report from the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee, and it relates to a noise disturbance from a commercial vehicle generator at 58 Grant Street.
And Councilor Bosley, no, I just need to say that on recommendation from the PLD, the committee's report will be filed as informational. Thank you. I should have held myself on the last report that was said it's informational, and that is what it is. All right, moving on to item D5.
Okay. This is a long one. We have a Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee report, and this is related to Let It Shine, request to use city property for the 2024 Pumpkin Festival. And on a vote of 5-0, the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee recommends that a license be granted to Let It Shine, Inc. to use downtown city rights-of-way on Saturday, October 12th, 2024, to host the Keene Pumpkin Festival, subject to the following provisions. This license is granted based on the event scope presented to city staff during protocol meetings held to date. Changes or additions to the license may require that an amended license be issued by the City Council, and no changes to this license or the associated protocol documents will be accepted after September 1, 2024. The petitioner agrees to absorb the cost of any city services over and above the amount of city funding allocated in the FY25 community events budget, and agrees to remit said payment within 30 days of the date of invoicing. The furnishing of a certificate of liability insurance in the amount of $1 million, naming the city of Keene as additional insured. The signing of a standard revocable license and indemnification agreement and associated protocol documents. The footprint and layout for the event shall encumber the traveled portions of Central Square, Main Street, both sides from Central Square to Emerald Street and Eagle Court, and a portion of Railroad Street. Street closures may include any portions of other streets needed to facilitate detour routes. The full extent of road closures and detour routes shall be agreed upon with city staff and will include any closures necessary to facilitate safety during pre-event, setup, and post-event cleanup activities. That the petitioner is permitted to use the northbound inside lane of Main Street for pumpkin drop-off by area schools on Friday, October 11th, 2024. That the actual event be held from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. with the times for setup and cleanup to be established with city staff. The submittal of signed letters of permission from any private property owners for the use of their property. That free parking be granted under the provisions of the free parking policy for city parking spaces needed for logistical purposes beginning Thursday, October 10th, 2024 at 6 a.m. and extending through Monday, October 14th, 2024. And spaces within the event footprint on the day of the event. And said permission is granted subject to obtainment of any necessary licenses or permits and compliance with all laws and compliance with any recommendations of city staff.
Councilor Bosley for a motion.
Thank you. I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Bosley, seconded by Councilor Greenwald. Councilor Remy.
Just briefly, I have a standing, it's on my list of disclosures for this, but I have a conflict as a member of the board for Let It Shine.
Okay.
So I don't know if we need to take a vote for me to step out of my seat, but.
No, it's a standing.
You just don't participate.
You just don't participate.
It's already on record, okay.
Good enough? With no objection? So noted. Councilor Bosley?
Yes, thank you. So there's not a lot to say following up on that motion. Lots of PLD motions are written like that. This is an annual request from Let It Shine. It's going to be very similar to the footprint last year. They did change the date this year to align with Keene State College's fall break. Instead of Parents' Weekend, there was a conversation had with the college where the college felt like it made sense to them to have the kids off, and instead of having all of the additional travelers coming into Keene from Parents Weekend, and then the Pumpkin Fest goers as well. I think that Let It Shine did a great job last year. The turnout was great despite the weather. Looking forward to seeing this family-friendly version of our Pumpkin Festival back, and hopefully some better weather this year.
Thank you, Councilor Bosley. Anything further from councilors? Seeing no further comment, all those in favor? And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item C6.
This is a Planning Licenses and Development Committee report relative to a request from the Greater Monadnock Collaborative for an event downtown on May 5th, 2024. And on a vote of 5-0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends that the Greater Monadnock Collaborative be granted a license for the use of city property on Railroad Square and designated spaces around Central Square and down Main Street to conduct a classic car show event on Sunday, May 5th, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. The applicant is permitted to close off the outer lane of Central Square and the outer northbound and southbound lanes of Main Street to Railroad Street to provide a buffer for pedestrians viewing cars on display, as well as a portion of Railroad Street from Main Street to the westerly entrance of the Well Street parking garage if needed. This permission is granted subject to the signing of a revocable license and indemnification agreement, submittal of a certificate of liability insurance in the amount of $1 million, listing the City of Keene as additional insured, submittal of signed letters of permission from the owners of any use of private property, and compliance with any recommendations of city staff. This license is subject to the Greater Monadnock Collaborative absorbing the cost of any city services provided. Use of parking spaces is granted free of charge under the provisions of the free parking policy.
Councilor Bosley for a motion.
Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Bosley and seconded by Councilor Greenwald. Councilor Bosley.
This, the event organizers, this did take feedback from, I think, the MSFI committee. They had met with staff, and they did take that feedback and the concerns brought to them about pedestrian safety, and they chose to come back to us with a plan to close those lanes, which we really appreciated. It assists with public safety. It gives a buffer for the viewers of the cars. It is going to be in the morning on a Sunday, which is great, and we were really just excited to see this type of event back in our downtown, and we hope you guys will all support it.
Any further comments from the councilors? I want to thank the manager and staff and the committee members for working this out. It seemed like there were potential conflicts, and this is a real good accommodation, and I agree. Having this kind of event back in Keene is, puts us back on the map with an important interest group. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Motion's on the floor, seconded. All those in favor say aye. And that motion carries unanimously as well. Moving on to item D7.
We have a Planning Licenses and Development Committee report, and this relates to 2 operating rights agreements with Monadnock Choppers and associated land leases. And on a vote of 5-0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to execute an operating rights agreement with Monadnock Choppers to provide flight instruction at the DeLaunt Hopkins Airport. And further, on a vote of 5-0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to execute an operating rights agreement with Monadnock Choppers to provide aircraft maintenance at the DeLaunt Hopkins Airport. And finally, on a vote of 5-0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to execute airport ground leases with Monadnock Choppers for lots 16 and 17 to conduct business at the DeLaunt Hopkins Airport associated with their operating rights agreement.
If there's no objection from the councilors, we'll consider all 3 of these motions simultaneously. Good. Councilor Bosley for a motion.
Move to carry out the intent of the committee reports.
Moved by Councilor Bosley, seconded by Councilor Greenwald. Councilor Bosley.
So Monadnock Choppers has been in business going on 4 years. Their initial lease was a 2-year lease with a 2-year extension, and they're coming up on the end of their extension. These motions will all look back at giving them authority to continue flight instruction, to continue with their maintenance agreement, and to continue with the lease for the property. We heard from the manager and the airport director that they've been a great addition to the airport, and we all agreed, and we'd like to see this move forward.
Comments? Yes. Councilor Ormerod.
Thank you. I remember when Monadnock Choppers came 3 or 4 years ago asking for a license. And there was a large public outcry against it. Perhaps not totally justified. I think they remembered a lot of other choppers, maybe not Monadnock Choppers, that were in the area. And they were concerned about the noise violations, among many other things. So we heard this, and it was very controversial, but I'm really proud and happy that our airport manager, our city manager, found a lease. The Monadnock Choppers flexed a little bit, and it was enough that we're really happy that they're there. We're so glad they're there. It brings in more business. It's really good for Keene in terms of the image. And, you know, I'm really pleased how far we've come, so thank you for all of your work to make this happen. And there has not been any resident complaints from that neighborhood at all.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further comments? Seeing none, would you all show your, if you approve, please show your hands. And that looks like a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Moving on to motions from the Finance, Operations, and Personnel Committee. I'll ask Councilor Remy for motions as he chaired that meeting, and then ask Councilor Powers to address to address the CIP motion. Would the clerk please?
So we have a Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report regarding communication from Macon and Soliday with concerns regarding the issuance of fire permits. And on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends that the communication be referred to staff to be handled administratively.
Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Remy, seconded by Councilor Filio. Councilor Remy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Mr. Soliday came before us to talk about the fire permit process. During COVID, we went to a process where there was an online process to get your permits. There was a convenience fee associated with that. That convenience fee from Mr. Soliday's report has recently gone up. What was not communicated clearly on the site was that, on our website, was that you still now have the option to go back into the fire departments and get your permits like you used to. So we are referring this administrative with the ask that the staff addresses the website and also make sure that the folks at the firehouses know that they can come in and what that process looks like, that both they can choose to use the very convenient online option. It's a great option. Please keep using it. But there is an option to go in for free and get those permits at the site.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. On to item number D9.
And this is a Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report relative to a request from the St. James Episcopal Church for some parking passes for use of space in the Gilboa Ave parking lot. And on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends accepting the communication on from St. James Episcopal Church requesting parking passes for Gilboa Ave parking lot as informational.
And on recommendation of the FOP committee, we'll file this as informational. Thank you. Item D10.
We have a Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report relative to construction engineering change order number 2 for the Upper Winchester Street reconstruction project. And on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a professional services change order with McFarland Johnson in an amount not to exceed $16,500.
Council Remy for a motion.
Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Remy, seconded by Councilor Filio. Councilor Remy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So McFarland Johnson is our engineer of record on this project with the extension of the timing of the construction. This is to have their engineering services extended to cover that same time period and make sure they're available. We may or may not need all of it, but this is an 80% match, so we're only paying 20% of this.
Thank you, Councilor Remy. And then moving on to item, well, we're gonna hold on the, huh? Oh, I'm sorry, yes. All those in favor of that motion to approve item G10, please raise your hand. And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We are going to accept the report on the CIP as informational for the time.
So we need to bring it
Hold
forward.
on. We're going to look at item G2 for a moment so that
Would you like me to read it? into the
please read
record?
that
Sure.
motion.
So we have a memorandum that was submitted by the Community Development Director, and it is regarding the Planning Board's review of the proposed CIP program for fiscal year 2025 through 2031. And at their meeting of February 26th, the Planning Board voted unanimously to find that the Capital Improvement Plan 2025 through 2031 is consistent with this comprehensive master plan.
And we'll accept the Planning Board's recommendation as informational. And now we'll move on to item D11.
And this is a Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report relative to the Capital Improvement Program for FY 2025 to 2031. And on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends adoption of the Capital Improvement Program for FY 25 to FY 31.
Councilor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. We move for the adoption of the city's capital improvement program for FY 25 through 2031.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Remy. Councilor Powers for the
Thank you, Your Honor. Job well done by the hardy 3 members of the committee last week. Thanks. But the real work was done by staff members in the back, city manager, and many others that aren't here tonight. This is a long process coming together. Significantly changed this year. A lot of items have been addressed that we haven't been able to address before, but the work through financing methods, the different methods of getting to reach our goals of keeping the projects going, moving forward, and consider the economic conditions we're in. So my personal thanks to everybody that worked on it, to all the members of the committee and the city council, because you're going to pass this unanimously this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Thank you to the FOP committee members. Any comments from the councilors? Seeing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries unanimously. I want to thank the FOP committee, I want to thank the city manager for her thorough explanation of the project several times, and thank again, as Councilor Powers said, all the city staff that contributed to this. And as the city manager has said to us before, this is the start of the budget process for fiscal 25 and moving beyond that, and it's good to have this so well carried out and well heard many times for the public's benefit. So thank you very much. I'd like to recognize the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some great news for you. Our new Keene Police Department social worker started this week. Yeah, her name is Caitlin Mello, and we are really excited to add her to our team. She came to us with some great experience. And just as a reminder, this position is partially funded with the funds we are receiving from the opioid abatement lawsuit, and is primarily focused on follow-up with individuals that the police department interacts with that are related to substance use. And so we're really excited about the impact that she will have. She is a native of Peterborough. She graduated from the Florida Gulf Coast University with a bachelor's in criminal justice, where she began work at the Shelter for Abused Women and Children in Naples, Florida. She later returned to New Hampshire and worked with the Federal Bureau of Prisons through Manchester, New Hampshire Community Resources for Justice as a program monitor. She has served as a behavioral health case manager in Concord, a family intervention specialist at youth villages in Manchester, and a social worker with the Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts, and most recently a case manager from Hampshire County Sheriff's Office in Northampton, Mass. She is a certified domestic violence and human trafficking advocate in Florida and a licensed social worker through 2025 license in Massachusetts. So we're really fortunate to get someone with such diverse experience, and she has a great personality. I met her on Monday, and I think she's going to be a wonderful addition to the police department in our community. And then I have a quick update to you from the airport. We are working with an air consultant, BA Group. It's a small contract to assist with the RFP process for a prime location for development at the airport. We've had at least 3 individuals interested in constructing a large hangar. The BA Group is assisting us with the RFP process and reviewing our lease language to ensure compliance with FAA regulations. The contract has a 64-day clock that begins when the initial deposit is received, which hasn't happened yet. And I spoke with the airport director, who's here this evening, and we are moving forward with this. So the 60-day clock will start soon. And we're really excited to see what they can help us do with the airport. And we have a few large pieces of property left to develop, and it's important that we have a fair and competitive process. And then some really good news. The Pat Russell Park, in fact, Andy just sent me a picture, is receiving the New Hampshire Engineering Excellence Award this evening. So congratulations to Director Bohannon and our engineering team, which included Don Lucier, the city's engineer, and Brett Resnack, the project manager, who both played important roles in this project. And Andy's in Concord, which is why he's not with us this evening, receiving that award. Our staff has also been asked to give a presentation on our Winchester Street reconstruction project with our consultants McFarland Johnson during the annual American Council of Engineering Companies and the New Hampshire DOT Technical Exchange Conference in April. Brett Resnack will be giving this presentation. And it's just a great honor to our community that the good work of our departments is being recognized, and our staff, they are known as leaders in their fields, and so congratulations to them all. And that's it for me tonight.
Thank you, Manager. We'll move on to Part G in our agenda, reports from boards and commissions.
We have a memorandum from the Community Development Director, and it relates to the Joint Planning Board and Planning Licenses and Development Committee's review of Ordinance O-2024-01 relating to an amendment to the zoning code relating to the Cottage Court Overlay District conditional use permit. And the report indicates that the Planning Board voted 6-2 to determine that this ordinance is consistent with the city's master plan. And the report further states that the Planning Licenses and Development Committee requests a public hearing be scheduled on the ordinance.
And we will accept that memorandum as informational, and we will be scheduling the public hearing on that ordinance for the Cottage Court Overlay, Ordinance 2024-01. Setting that for April 18th at 7 p.m. Okay. We'll move on to ordinances for their first reading.
We have a communication from the city manager, and this relates to water and sewer abatements, ordinance O 2024-04. This is an ordinance relating to water and sewer abatements, and it's recommending to be referred to the MSFI committee.
And we will refer that to the MSFI committee.
Something to do. Peel, did you go to Peel?
No. Hope that wasn't a challenge. Moving on to section J.
So we have a report from the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee relative to ordinance O 2024-02, and on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends the adoption of the ordinance. And we have ordinance O 2024-02, an ordinance relating to departments and class allocation.
And Councilor Remy for a motion.
Move for the adoption of ordinance O 2024-02 with an effective date of April 1st, 2024.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Remy, seconded by Councilor Filio. Councilor Remy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as part of the promotions for the deputy city managers, this is cleaning up the remaining titles that were left in there. So this is splitting facilities off from Parks and Rec. This is so that facilities will stay with the deputy city manager, and eliminating the other position that will be going away as part of this. There's a number of schedules that needed to be adjusted to correct for this, but this is those all being packaged into one.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further comments? We have heard this previously presented to us by the city manager, so. Seeing none, all those in favor, oh, no, sorry, we need to do a roll call on this motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Lee?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
And moving on to item J2.
This is a report from the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee relative to ordinance O 2024-03. And on a vote of 5-0, the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee recommends the adoption of the ordinance. And we have ordinance O 2024-03, an ordinance relating to the Airport Development and Marketing Committee.
Councilor Bosley for a motion, please.
Move for the adoption of ordinance O-2024-03.
Second.
Thank you. That's moved by Councilor Bosley, seconded by Councilor Madison. Councilor Bosley for the committee.
Thank you. So this ordinance, I'm sure you guys all read very thoroughly, is relating to the quorum issues that the airport marketing committee is having. So they came before us asking for some adjustments to their makeup. So the 4 items that they're looking for, they would like to change their membership from 11 to 7 members so that they can have a better chance of reaching quorum at their meetings. They'd like to make their fixed base operator Monadnock Aviation a permanent member so that they don't roll off. They would also like to be able to search for members outside of citizens of Keene because it is the airport and it does span multiple communities. They are looking for people who have specific interests or experience with aviation or the tools that they need in order to move that field forward. And so to just sort of expand the field would give them some more options. And the 4th item is to allow the airport director to act as a chair, and that would be a non-voting chair. But that would give some continuity and consistency so the members can do the work and the director can just be in charge of the process. We were all in support of all of these changes, and we hope you guys will too.
Any comments from councilors on this motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yeah.
That motion carries unanimously, correct? And we'll move on to item K, and a motion from Counselor Remy. I'm sorry.
I'll read it first for you.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the motion?
Sure. We have a report from the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee relative to Resolution R 2024-05, and on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends the adoption of the resolution. And we have Resolution R 2024-05, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds and use of unassigned fund balance in the amount of $900,000 for the FY 2024 Finance Department operating budget.
Counselor Remy for the committee.
Move for the adoption of Resolution R 2024-05.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Remy and seconded where? Counselor Lake, thank you.
So this is a lot of money. So this is to appropriate $900,000 for the overrun that we're seeing in supporting housing for those folks in the community that need it. There are processes in place to make sure that this money is being used for Keene, folks that Keene needs to support, which was discussed at the meeting. The number of folks that we're having to support right now is staggering. It's a much, much higher than it was just a few years ago. I want to say it was 6 or 7 times higher than what we were seeing. So there's a lot of need here, and hopefully we can get some help from the state in figuring out what the right things to do are to support this more broadly. I don't know if anybody else has any comments on it, but.
Counselor Filio.
I want to applaud the mayor and the city manager for taking steps to try to alleviate this problem that's before us, because it's $900,000 now, it's not going to get any better. The state obviously has been inadequate on its response to this, but so has the county. The population of Cheshire County is 77,000 approximately. Population of Keene is about 23,000, so we make about 30% of the population of the county. We have 100% of the beds. That is a system that is unfair and unsustainable. Is $900,000 now. If the state doesn't do something, this isn't going to get better. Keene is burdened by the fact that we actually make an effort to take care of the homeless. What happens is, we could open up 100 more beds tomorrow and the state would fill them in 15 minutes. They'd come in, they wouldn't be Keene residents. As we know, the makeup of Keene residents in the shelters right now, goes somewhere between 30 and 40% depending on the day. Once again, coming in from other towns, and the towns aren't held accountable. Granted, a couple of towns may send a check or two, but it goes way beyond housing these individuals. As we know, it's a lot deeper than the problem of just finding them a bed. So, once again, my applause to the mayor, the city manager, to Senator Fenton for trying to find a solution to this problem, because it's going to get worse before it gets better, and the state cannot keep falling on their face in not funding us adequately.
Counselor Ormerod, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, thank you. This has been one of my causes as well. We're trying to create room for everyone on the housing ladder as well, too. We have a lot of people and some infrastructure to support the unhoused, but as Senator Fenton, our city manager, Councilor Filio, and many other people have been quite concerned about the outside help that we can get from the whole county. And so I would echo his sentiments, and I think this is worth publicizing, how we're showing some leadership to really start work on this and taking some of our hard-earned cash that is the people's money, and they need to know that this is an issue, and I really do hope that we get more support, and that all the organizations out there that are working on that will hear this cry and help us solve the problem.
Thank you. Counselor Bosley?
Thank you. So I will 100% be supporting this tonight, and I'm sure that when we look at our budget for the next fiscal year, we'll be considering adding a line item similar to this to prevent us being in this situation again. But what I would like to get up and say is that I would like to take this opportunity to ask our city manager to look at this sum of money in the next budget and please be creative, think out of the box, talk to our community partners, figure out how we can get people out of hotels, which is the least constructive use of our money and our funds. We have an amazing staff in-house. What opportunities would you need to bring to us in order to support them to be able to do some additional case management, to be able to do some house hunting? Can we coordinate with Keene Housing? Can we triage people coming to the city of Keene who are rent unstable and who we are supporting with rent, to get them on the voucher list and to get them moved up in the voucher list so that people in apartments don't end up in hotel rooms? And I think that there are so many small things that we can do to prevent this from growing and to start looking at ways to address some of these issues with some dignity for these folks. And we need to start, now this is not an unfunded thing anymore. We're sitting here tonight talking about a huge amount of dollars to appropriate to our welfare department to cover these expenses. And let's make sure we're spending it right next year.
Councilor Williams?
Just to say, yes, this is quite a lot of money, but I do support spending it for people in need. At bottom, the reason we have to pay this money is because we're in a housing crisis. We just haven't built enough housing for years, and now there isn't enough room for everybody. And so the most vulnerable people in our society end up without a place to stay, and that ends up in our budget and in the budget of our taxpayers. So we really need to address this housing crisis. We need to build more housing. We need more opportunities for housing. I think the cottage court idea is one way to do that. But, we can cut a whole bunch of regulations, and that's great. But to really get housing built, we're going to need ways to fund that housing. And that's what I haven't seen quite enough of. And so, we're spending $900,000 here. That would go a long way towards building. But unfortunately, we're spending it this way because we have to. Thank you.
Councilor Roberts?
It would be nice to say this $900,000 is going to be a one-time event. It isn't going to be a one-time event. We talk about $900,000. We just approved the number of houses to be up by, my grandson works up there. Market Basket. Two of those houses are going to be $900,000, and the lawyer came and told us they were workforce housing. Well, just give you an example of such a disconnect. The problem that we have right now, a lot of it was self-inflicted 40 years, starting 40 years ago. If you go back and you'll see some years, there wasn't even a single housing permit issued in the city of Keene. Because we had people who says, do not build single-family houses because they'll have kids and our school taxes would go up. So people were short-sighted and they said, nope, we're not going to build houses. Then the college grew and they said, hey, no problem at all. We can make a lot of money by kicking out people who live in Keene, put college students in, bingo. But we have not addressed the problem at all. And this is where I'll probably tick off some of the people, okay? I go back to when we had the discussion on going from 5 acres down to 2 acres. Those were some of the most bigoted discussions that I heard since I've lived in Keene. Other people will say, I've been in Keene 2, 3, 4 generations, and then let's put all this property into conversation. So even though I'm dead, I'll control over what Keene will be like. Okay? They'll take the money off the tax rolls and control. Okay? If we want to solve housing problems, 900 to 1,000 square feet for families, we can't keep putting everything that comes up to us into conservation. Some of that property has to be effectively used. And like we had a discussion a while ago about the property up by the, up at the National Guard place. I'm sorry, I've been under radiation for cancer treatment, it's getting to me. But we have to look at the big picture, and everybody has to give up a little. Else, it's going to get higher and higher and higher every year, and the only people that are going to be making money are the hotels.
Further comments from the council? I'd like to ask the city manager to address her thoughts.
Thank you. So this is a difficult problem to solve, and one of the things that we look at is are we at the peak of this problem right now? Because one of the things that really contributed to the spike in the number of homelessness has been the federal funds, the money that came in through COVID, and they were assisting people with rent for quite a long period of time. And to be honest, some people got used to a different standard of living, and when those funds went away, we saw families and individuals who were behind 2 or 3 months of rent. In addition to that, we saw with the elimination of the federal funds, the rental evictions. We had a moratorium on evictions, so people were behind. And so, we assist people with their rent or their mortgage to prevent them from becoming homeless if they're eligible. And those numbers have dramatically increased because people got further behind after those programs went away. So is this the peak? Because it was all at the same time we really started to feel the crunch in the housing crisis, and the numbers in our market started to really increase. Rents have dramatically increased, and their landlords are more competitive in their applications. You have to have 2 to 3 times the income that you may have had to have in the past to get a rental unit, and so that's made it harder for us to move people from a temporary situation into a permanent situation. So that's created longer stays at the hotel or at shelters. And so there's really been a variety of things that sort of hit us all at once, a bit of a tsunami. And in the past, we have had an increase in homeless gradually since 2018, but you really see the spike after these programs go away. It starts to the numbers dramatically increase. So, when you look at the $900,000 overage, and I'm challenged by Councilor Bosley to think of creative solutions, do I spend $900,000 to come up with creative solutions, or do I think this is actually going to be reduced and we find a combination of ways to address it? And so, we're having those conversations now about what the right number will be for the operating budget. And the other thing, we've been moving people from the woods into housing. And that is a good thing. We have cleaned up property and we've put people who were living in encampments into housing. And when you're going to clean up encampments, you have to expect to spend that money. And that's what we've done. It's our responsibility. But I do think it was a good thing. It's moving people into a better situation for them, and it's helping our community as a whole. So a variety of things hit us all at once. In talking to Natalie Darcy, our Human Services Director, she's the one that has the pulse on this. She's the one that's working on this every day with her team. She feels we are at the peak. And hopefully, we will start to see these numbers decline some, but it's hard to tell. It really is. So we've done things in human services to try and address this. You know, we've been working for some time to bring in an outreach worker. We advertised multiple times and wasn't able to really bring someone on board until recently. We now have an outreach worker. She's part-time. I will be increasing her hours in the next budget. She's going out and working with these people in hotel rooms to find services for them, to help move them into a permanent solution. And that's been a really needed piece that we haven't had enough time to really focus on. And so, you know, we're going out to them now. And we've had some additional support in that office as well, and we may need to add more. I'm hoping the work of the Keene Police social worker, because it's not always going to be a homeless person, but there will be some homeless person that they interact with related to substance use, and we can partner between the outreach worker in human services and the work that's being done at the PD. And so I do think we have some things in the works, and Councilor Filio is absolutely right. We are pushing the state, and the mayor has been doing a fabulous job working with the other mayors to really apply some pressure and say, look, it's not fair for us to feel this burden in the way that the state has set up, you know, human services across the state. And a handful of communities are really picking up a huge burden. So I heard all of you, and we're working these issues, and we'll continue to work these issues, and I'm grateful for the support you've given us thus far.
Thank you, Manager. I want to give an update on the legislature at this point. I was pleased to write the letter to all the state senators along with Mayor Jay Ruiz. Yes, there are two Mayor Jays, but Jay Ruiz from Manchester. So the two of us put our names to a letter to the 24 senators. We signed it on behalf of 11 mayors, and 11 of the 13 mayors signed on to it. And if you know the adage, sometimes people operate with what is the last conversation I had. In fact, that's what happened at the State Senate Committee, Health and Human Services Committee this last week. One of the members, the Senate President, his last conversation on the matter was with a shelter director who said if without additional funding for the shelters, that this shelter would likely have to close in October. The shelters, which received an appropriation for this current year that is double what it was in 2023, appropriately so, raising it to around $18 a day versus the cost for in a shelter of around $46 a day, that was a move the state needed to make. But this amendment that was a replace all amendment to the Senator Fenton's bill replaced it all with a $2.5 million appropriation. That's the good part. The bad part is it dedicated it to shelters to increase that rate from $18 to probably $22 a day reimbursement rate. An appropriate move. Unfortunately, it really misses the mark because our situation, and I believe the situation experienced by other cities throughout New Hampshire, is that there is an unsheltered population that is poor and falls under the state statute that cities must provide services to the poor if they are unable to provide for themselves. With that statute in place, we carry that burden. And without the state's participation, we carry it 100%. And that amendment that replaced all, the $5 million request to support the unhoused and unsheltered is replaced with a shelter appropriation. I think it misses the mark. I've communicated that to both the the Senate President, and will continue to voice this. The mayors are getting together on Monday in Manchester, and we will consider, is there further public action that we want to call attention to this? That would be our public effort to call attention to the needs of cities to address this. And I want to further ask that, at this point, call to your attention, the need to ask the State's Department of Health and Human Services to provide to us a baseline measure of those people who are unsheltered in New Hampshire. There is a point-in-time census that's done in January. Those numbers still have not been released 2 months later. And not having that, it disallows us to quantify the difference in the growth in the population. I can't believe that Keene is alone in this effort. We may be experiencing it to a greater proportion than other cities because we don't have as much shelter space as was said before in our county. And so that unsheltered burden does fall in a place where the services are provided. We need the data so that good public policy can be made and the gaps in public policy can be firmly articulated, and we can form partnerships to solve this problem on a long-term basis. So we'll continue to work with our colleague cities to try to solve this on a statewide basis. If there are no further comments, we have a motion before us. The clerk, call the roll.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we move on to K2.
We have a Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee report. This is relative to sole source for the Martel Court Pump Station motor and pump repair, as well as reallocation of funds for the Martel Court Pump and Control Replacement Project. And we also have Resolution R 2024-07 relating to the reallocation of unspent bond funds for the Martel Court Pump Control and Replacement Program project. And on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to sole source Farrer Corporation for repairs and maintenance of 4 raw sewage pumps at the Martel Court Pump Station. And further, on a vote of 3-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to reallocate $50,000 from the Rose Lane Maintenance Program to the Martel Court Pump and Controls Replacement Program. And in addition, we have a recommendation for the adoption of Resolution R 2024-07.
We have 3 motions here, which we'll take up separately. Councilor Remy for the motion.
Move to carry out the intent of paragraph 1 of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Remy, seconded by Councilor Lake. Councilor Remy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to talk to all 3 of these together, similar to how staff did, and then we can vote through them. But so there are raw sewage pumps that need repair and maintenance. There are a few places in New England that are licensed to work on these particular pumps and this manufacturer of pump. One of them happens to recently have become Farrar in town, so they're right down the road. Previously, we were having to ship these out of state to get them repaired when we needed to. They're competitively priced and they're local, so it was an option to keep them here without days of shipping and losing that time. So the first piece of this motion is to basically identify Farrar as the folks that are going to work on these when they need maintenance going forward. And then the second 2 motions are to allocate funds for some repairs that are needed now. So the first bucket is $50,000 being reallocated from maintenance at Rose Lane. The remaining $27,000, which is why it's separated out, is coming from unspent bond funds, also associated with Rose Lane. So that's why first two will be raise our hands, the last one will be a 2/3 majority roll call. So.
We have a motion on the first part related to the maintenance and the sole source. So we'll need a show of hands. All those in favor, part one. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Part two, Councilor Remy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to carry out the intent of paragraph 2 of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Remy and seconded by Councilor Lake. We've already covered the necessity to reallocate $50,000. Any further comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. And finally, we have the adoption of Resolution 2024-07. And any comments? Oh, we need that motion? I'm sorry, Councilor Remy. You're right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move for the adoption of Resolution R 2024-07.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Remy, seconded by Councilor Lake. Any further comments? Okay, the vote on the resolution for to spend $27,000 of unspent bond proceeds. Will the clerk please call the roll? This will take the 2/3 majority vote of the council.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Remy?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
13 affirmative votes, the motion carries. Item K3.
This is a report or a memorandum from the Human Resources Director, and it is accompanied by a resolution, R 2024-08, in appreciation of Colleen M. Sweeter upon her retirement.
Councilor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2024-08.
Moved by Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Greenwald.
You good?
Councilor Powers.
Okay. 34 and a half years, City of Keene service is remarkable. Colleen worked up from coming in as a part-timer at a very busy location in the city and is retiring as a librarian one. And as she's gone through just about every department in that organization and has seen it go from the old traditional books and paperwork to a lot of automation, a lot of different programs, and a lot of youth coming through there. She's had an impact on any one of us with kids that have been over there. She and my wife worked together for a number of years over there and went through 2 rebuilds of that library, one of which was they moved out lock, stock, and barrel into another building for almost a year and a half. No small project. And she had a thumb on each step of her portion of it, and it was a large portion. In 2008, she received the Employee Achievement Award, and she served on a number of different committees, employee committees, and various committees in the community. So she deserves your appreciation and thank you, and I hope that you'll adopt this unanimously. Thank you.
Seeing no further comments, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Do we need- I'm sorry, can I say that one more time? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And Councilor Powers for another, would the clerk please read item K4?
Be happy to. We have another memorandum from the Human Resources Director. This is accompanied by Resolution R 2024-09 in appreciation of Thomas P. Mullins upon his retirement.
Councilor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2024-09.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Greenwell. Counselor Powers.
This is for the Honorable Thomas P. Mullins. Does anybody not know him in this room? Probably one of the most well-known lawyers in the community, because his activity on our behalf has been huge over the last 16 years. Not to say that prior attorneys here haven't been busy and haven't done a lot, but we've been through a period of time, we've been involved in so many different projects, and he's been right smack in the middle of it, and in some cases, the belly button of the entire project. And the thing that we remember is his ability to get the point across to us. No easy task to get it across to some of us when we're trying to do the best for the city, but maybe we as an individual or as a council want to go in a different direction. And always feel comfortable when he says this is the way we ought to go. If he's comfortable, I'm comfortable. Very important. You're going to see him around for another 5 or 6 months as a part-timer, and I think that's just great for us. Gives us an opportunity to clean up some projects. So next week or the week after next, when he shows up, shake his hands again and say thank you, and he's going to get this in front of us at some point in time in the very near future. I guess one of the things that impresses me about why he's retiring is he figured out how neat it can be to be a grandparent. So he's spending his time doing that. Thank you.
Any further comments from councilors? Seeing, and I just want to remind us, his agreement with us is that he'll be on part-time assignment for 9 months, unless otherwise so designated or through mutual agreement. So it is through the end of December. Seeing no further comment, could I have a show of hands? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We've reached the conclusion of all of the items for consideration tonight, with the exception of going into a non-public session. I'd like to ask Councilor Greenwald for a motion.
Move to go into non-public session to discuss a land matter under RSA 91A3(2)(d).
Second.
Moved by Councilor Greenwald and seconded by Councilor Bosley. At the end of this, we'll excuse our audience. We'll take a brief couple-minute recess. All those in favor?
Roll call.
I'm sorry. I got most of these.
You did too.
Yeah,
Wow.
good, better.
We're ready.
All right. Roll call, please.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
Counselor Tobin.
Yes.
Counselor Remy.
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Haas.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod.
Yes.
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much tonight for your attendance.